He's the chairman and ICTP and publisher of ETN. Juergen Steinmetz has worked in the travel and tourism industry since he was a teenager. And there you are again. How are you? Hello? Yeah.
I'm so sorry because
okay.
we love to get Peter on the phone. What I have to do is use a different line. It's not merging here.
Yeah, just tell him to call in. Just text him and tell him to call in at this number because I have two lines. Okay. He's trying to get it. All right. So anyway, let me continue while Juergen tries to get a conference call going while he's calling in here. But he's been a travel agent from the time he was young, and today he's the publisher of eTurboNews, ETN. It's one of the world's most influential and most read travel and tourism publications, and he's chairman of ICTP. He has worked and collaborated with various national tourism offices and non-governmental organizations as well as private and nonprofit organizations, and he travels a lot. I mean, he's on the road quite a bit of the time, and his major strengths include a huge knowledge of news about travel and tourism, and he also is connected with now another wonderful organization that we're going to be talking about. That is with Dr. Peter Tarlow. Okay, we're going to try one more time. Hana ho. Oh, is this you again? I hope so.
Okay, I think I managed to put all of us together. Peter, are you there?
I'm here.
Yay!
Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Aloha, how are you?
I'm fine. Aloha. Okay, I introduced you, and I haven't introduced Peter yet. Dr. Peter Tarlow is a world-renowned speaker and expert specializing in the impact of terrorism, crime, how the tourism and industry can take care and manage tourism and economic development. And you're also putting on some very, very interesting workshops that are very timely at this particular point. You've also worked with a number of U.S. government agencies, including U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, Customs, the FBI, U.S. Park Service, Department of Justice, Speakers Bureau, U.S. Department of State, and Center for Disease, and U.S. Supreme Court, police, etc. So you are an expert in security and keeping people happy and healthy when they travel, right?
That's my job, and I've even had the wonderful pleasure of being in Maui many years ago to lecture.
Well, it's
to the police.
probably time again. Probably time to come back.
You would take very little to twist my arm to get me to go back to Maui.
We need you here. We need you here. Because
I will do everything possible. So if you know someone who can connect with us or connect with Juergen, that would be just absolutely wonderful.
Oh, well, Juergen's so connected already. So there's an interesting thing going on. You have been able through the years to talk to all these people about tourism and how it is impacted when there are crises going on. And I don't know if there's ever been a time where there's been a crisis quite like this for tourism. What are both of your opinions about what's going on with the coronavirus?
Well, first of all, let me just, with a lot of politeness, say that I do have to correct you. Not across the world, but the SARS virus certainly put the world into a tizzy, at least in Hong Kong and Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a lot of data on how we handled the SARS virus, and also if we handled H1N1, which was more commonly known as the swine flu, if you remember.
I do.
From Mexico. So we do have, some good knowledge to base things on, and we're not just totally blind. Having said that, we are having a problem getting real information out of China. They have not been terribly cooperative. The World Health Organization is now trying to get a group of doctors to go into China to get some more accurate information. But I would say that anyone who tells you that they know what caused this or what all the results are is not telling you the truth. Because the bottom line is we don't have that information. Now, what we do know is that it is related both to the flu and to SARS and to the common cold. And that's one of the problems that we face, is that sometimes someone could be a carrier of corona, and that person thinks he or she has a cold, or vice versa. So information is right now scant. We are trying to develop the understanding what the genetic codes are behind corona, and in 2 or 3 labs, including the one here in Texas A&M in Texas, we are working very quickly to try to create a some sort of preventative issue. I'm not sure if it will be a vaccination or it will be a pill, but we're working to see how we can, make people not have to worry about this. Something like the flu vaccine. It may need to take every year and update it as we do in the flu vaccine, but we are working on it. And hopefully within a short period of time, certainly within 6 months, we will have some sort of medication to deal with it. So that should hopefully
I just have to chime in and say that sometimes the flu shot does not even prevent flus, of course.
That's right.
But
you're absolutely correct. And part of that is because of mutations.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, with the flu vaccination, you take a guess on what you think the flu vaccination will be. You make it about 3 months prior to flu season, and then you pray that your guess was correct.
I love science and prayer together. It's great.
Yes. And that's really the best science is when you also take God into account.
Yes, thank you.
Medicine is not a pure science. Medicine is an art with a lot of prayer. And I teach at a medical school. So that's the first thing I teach my students. Is the moment you think you're a pure scientist, you're a terrible doctor.
Wonderful. Well, I have a quote here from your site, and I do want to mention, of course, you and Juergen are wonderful friends, and they're going to put on a great couple of workshops. One way in Berlin there, that's coming up, and one, I think you're doing one in Las Vegas too, aren't you?
Yes. Well, we do the International Tourism Security Conference. This will be year number 27, and many people have come from Hawaii for this. Now, this conference deals with every form of tourism security, from someone robbing you on the beach to room invasion to cyber issues. So you name it, we touch upon it. One of the sessions will be on coronavirus, because in reality, it's more than just physical security. It's tourism well-being.
Yes.
And that means safety, security, health are all interactive with for a tourism community like Maui.
That is so true, and I was just talking about this before you came on the line about how people perception and panic works, and there was a quote on your site: according to the World Health Organization, 90% of the economic financial impact of virus outbreaks in the past have been related not to the virus. In other words, 10% is related to the virus, 90% is related to the overreaction and irrational decisions like canceling a lot of flights and closing airports. And in this case, of course, it's impacting very largely, as you would know too, Juergen, the cruise industry is having huge impacts, right?
Yeah, and you have a case we reported at eTurboNews from Maui, this poor lady who lost 5-digit dollar sign numbers for wanting to cancel, and Norwegian Cruise Line didn't let her cancel. So I think even after this virus is defeated, we're going to hear about this situation in court in a lot of different ways, because the industry really wasn't or isn't prepared to handle this. And that's also, you mentioned our other event, what is upcoming on March 5th in Berlin during the ITB trade show. ITB is the largest travel industry event in the world every year in Berlin, Germany. And we're having a breakfast meeting, what is a public meeting. Anyone can attend who's attending ITB. You find the information on safertourism.com, and we're doing, Peter will be speaking among several other experts, and it's all going to be about coronavirus and the global tourism industry. We're doing this in cooperation with PATA and the African Tourism Board.
And what is really important for people to know, the average person, these days a lot of people are buying travel insurance, but correct me if I'm wrong, but from the studies I've done on it, your average travel insurance package does not include anything like an epidemic or a pandemic, and for that your cancellations would not be covered. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you could, come up with another reason with the insurance company. That would be pretty much how you'd have to deal with it. But if you're saying because you're afraid of a pandemic, that would not be. So you are correct.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, you'd have to buy the much more expensive insurance that covers everything from terrorism or crises or a government overthrow. But it still doesn't include acts of God, correct?
You're absolutely correct. And only God controls God.
Yeah.
What I would suggest, though, is that, people are panicking more than anything else. Let me give you an example from SARS in 2004 in Toronto. There was SARS lost their room occupancy went from 80% to 14% in Toronto. I mean, incredible economic destruction. How many people died of SARS in Toronto? And the answer is 0.
Wow.
How many people died of traffic accidents at the same period? 24.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was afraid to go to Toronto because of traffic accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was afraid to go for a disease that killed no one, or even put anyone in the hospital. So the biggest fear we need to think about is, are we creating our own sense of fear? Now, that doesn't mean there aren't things you can do to protect yourself. You can drink at least 4 liters of water a day. You can take lots of vitamin C with some food in your stomach. You can wash your hands, which is probably the best prophylactic we have, is soap and water. You can make sure that, for example, if you're in a hotel, don't just drink from the glasses, they put in the room.
Yeah.
Take a paper cup or something like that.
Interesting.
That's minimal. I mean, they're not hard to do, and that's going to give you about a 98% protection rate.
Well, and of course, I think some people's concerns are the airlines when you're on an airplane. And, it's funny, I went to the CDC site, and one of the things they suggested is that you stay 3 feet away from anyone else that may be sick. And it's like, well, how do you do that? How do you
try to do this on United Airlines 737? Yes.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And even standing in line to get on the airplane, it's like, well,
I mean, that's very silly. But what you can do is you can, before you get on a plane, just have some vitamin C, which is really a good protector.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on the plane, get one of these little wipes and wipe down the tray in the seat. Don't use the blanket. Take an extra coat or something if you think you're going to be cold. Just minimal common sense.
Yeah. And the armrest and the overhead bin latch, those get touched by everyone, and those also are very dirty and need to be cleaned. And I'm sure wipes are doing very, very good in sales right now. Everyone's got their spray and their wipes, right?
Yeah. Actually, the most dangerous thing that you can use is the remote control. That's never washed.
In hotel rooms. I don't think you have to worry about that on the plane. But, you are right. And the hotel rooms, they're considered to be one of the dirtiest things. And there's and I'm sure, Peter, being in safer tourism, and you do a lot of training about terrorism, et cetera, for the industry people that are involved in protection. But have you seen the rumors and the conspiracy theories that this is actually a plan? Have you seen the stories that have been out there?
There's a lot out there right now.
There's a lot of strange stuff out there. And again, it shows how emotional we are. And unfortunately, what's happening with the way we follow stories in social media and in the news and stuff, it's the stuff that scares people that people watch the most, right? And
yes.
There has to be some common sense in some of this. When you talk
you know what? In reality, it doesn't matter what started it. It's something we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And if it's something we have to deal with, then just take good care of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do silly things.
That's true. And I had to ask you if you thought about this. I think you may have, Juergen. We're not that far away from the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. And Tokyo right now has about 10 cases, but there's a lot more people sick, but there's 10 people confirmed. So what do you think this is going to be impacting the Summer Olympics in Tokyo?
Well, mass events like the Olympic, also like the ITB event in Berlin, definitely are impacted, I think, more from in regards to perception to real danger, but Peter may be able to correct me here. When you look at Japan, I was actually pleased to see the numbers were quite confusing, because the numbers went up in the statistics that there are hundreds of people infected by the coronavirus, but these are really the poor people that were on this cruise ship.
Right.
Japan itself is, I don't think, is in no way of danger of starting an epidemic with the virus at this time. If you look at the numbers, it remains safe. And of course, here in Hawaii, with the recent scare last week, a tourist returning to Japan infected with it didn't make it easier. I hope that between now and the Olympics, people are getting more educated about the virus, and hopefully we find a vaccine. But definitely, it had the indication that it could be quite a challenge for Olympic Games in a country where this virus is present, is definitely there.
And
now, again, I think we want to take a little bit of care. We are in February. The Olympics are in July, if I'm not mistaken.
June, yeah,
so,
June.
We have a little bit of time to, worry about these things, because I'm kind of hoping that by the time we are getting close to the Olympics, we're going to have a good vaccine, and we'll have this pretty much under control.
Well, and I don't know if you're aware of this. You are probably, Juergen, but here on Maui, one of the most traveled to places in the last couple of years for people from Maui, where they go on travel, has been to Japan. And that's partially because it's interesting. We have a lot of our musicians who can make their money, a lot more than they can make here on Maui. Over in Japan, they have hula halaus and quite a bit cultural exchange going on between here and Japan. So I would think just like there were some people from Hawaii that were on that cruise ship, I would think that there are going to be people from Hawaii wanting to go to the Tokyo Olympics in June. So,
no, absolutely. I mean, if you look, traffic between Hawaii and Japan is tremendous compared to traffic to Japan from the rest of the country. And we're always close. There are cultural ties to Japan, whether it's from Maui or Oahu or any island. We have vacation travel coming inbound to Hawaii. Japan is one of our most important exports when it comes to tourism dollars. So there's definitely a very close connection with Japan. But are the numbers for this virus, the numbers we see right now, really worrisome in a way that we should say this travel should be stopped or should be cut down? Honestly, my own opinion, I don't think so.
Thank you. I agree. And I wanted to ask you, Peter, on this, too, because it's unique to have you here when we were mentioning the Olympics. I always think that you made a statement on your website, I saw, about how important tourism is with the good relationship of the people who are in the police and security industry and the way that they're treated. And I have to agree with you, and I think it's so important. And I'm glad you actually educate and train people who are in the security business about how important the way they treat travelers is.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's really important that I get back to Maui, because
Yes.
You guys, I love Aloha. I love Hawaii. I've been there many times. Not always are you the best in customer service that you should be.
Yep.
And so and I mean, treating everyone with love and respect.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could translate Aloha into the treatment of the visitor, that would be spectacular.
And, it's interesting. We just assume we are, but most people living here think that, but we're not playing the role of a tourist, so we don't see it from the other side, really. I mean,
right.
And what happens is, and Juergen, you know this very much, what happens when there becomes over-tourism, which some people are complaining about in Hawaii, when you start to see the volume, and we've seen this with airlines, United and others, when you start to see a lot of business, unfortunately, sometimes the service level goes down. What do you think, Juergen?
No, absolutely. I mean, I've flown United Airlines for more than 30 years between here and the mainland, and yes, service went down. Not on, I know United because it's what I fly, but there's no comparison. In the old days when you had the 747 and your sleeper seats and your and your champagne and caviar they had in first class. These times are finished.
Yeah.
Now you're lucky to be able to fit sidewalks into a bathroom if you need to go. So yes, I agree, and this also makes our tourism product less interesting for those people that are high spenders. For instance, Hawaii is always after people that are able to spend more money on their vacation, and you find such people in the United Arab Emirates, for example. Can you imagine someone flying first class on Emirates or Etihad to Los Angeles and then changing on United or even Hawaiian Airlines to Honolulu?
Yeah.
Or Maui? For this case, there is really no comparison. It becomes a matter of competing with the world. When you look at our hotels, some hotels are good, but they're not compatible with the hotel standards you find, for example, again, in the United Arab Emirates or in Asia. So competing with the rest of the world is important, because if you look at the recent reports here on over-tourism is definitely a concern. It's a concern for me, too. I lived here on the North Shore of Oahu for almost 28 years, and I moved because it's just simply I didn't have 2 hours time to commute to the city from there anymore, and that's because of over-tourism. So then you have environmental issues and so forth. Now, when you look, tourism is a business overall. So if you look at the money that our state takes in and our economy is taking in from tourism, recent reports actually indicates that the numbers adjusted for inflations are pretty much the same numbers you find in the 80s, 1988. Now you have 3 times as many people traveling, but overall what is left is about the same money we had in the late 80s. And do we really want this? But if we don't want it, how can we correct it? And see tourism more as a business that benefits also us, people who live here. I don't know about Maui that much, but if you look here on Oahu, we have some of the worst streets you can find anywhere. And I think probably most of the roads we have here, they would be illegal. They would probably be closed in most parts of Europe. Can we really compete this with the homeless issue and everything else? What is a big problem with? Where does the money go? Is it really staying here? Are hotels paying fair share of taxes? Or people working in the industry, are they really making enough money to support their family? Could they make more money with the prices? Is the money sent to Marriott in Washington or to Hyatt in Chicago? Is this the right way of doing it? There are many, many issues I think we could talk about.
Well, thank you. And I do want to mention in our last few minutes there are a couple of things. Let's talk about your new connections. I know you've been with ETN for years, and you've been expanding and growing, and you have some news about some recent partnerships, right?
Yeah, we entered a number of partnerships. One, of course, most important is partnership with Peter, what is now under the umbrella of Safer Tourism. So I'm very happy that we teamed up with Peter on his outreach and events. They're taking place literally in many parts of the world, most prominently in Jamaica right now, in St. Lucia, in Mexico. Peter is fluent in Spanish, so safety, security is one of the things that's important. We recently also teamed up with a company, what we will brand under Buzz.travel, what is similar to LinkedIn and Facebook combination, but for people who like to travel in the travel and tourism industry. We'll make some announcement on this probably in a few weeks. We also are doing the marketing and outreach here for the African Tourism Board. You wouldn't think anyone in Hawaii would be doing this, so we're involved in a number of things, yes.
And it's going well. And I have to say, Peter, it must be interesting for you to talk to Jamaica and to talk to Mexico and to try to let people know it is safe. You know, if they see pictures of a hotel with barbed wire fences around them or machine guns, guards out front greeting them,
my job is to make. I'm right now the head advisor for Mexico City Police Department, and we're going to have over 3,000 police officers committed to nothing more than tourism security. And I'm going to Jamaica in March again to develop a new tourism security unit for the Jamaican police. so that one of the things that my goal will be, the same in St. Lucia and a number of other places around the world. I'll be in Colombia in the summer, in Bogota. And I help with Bogota transform itself into a place that did have barbed wire and machine guns to a city that you can walk through the streets in the middle of the night and not have any fear.
Wow.
So one of the goals is when you have good security and good safety, people want to visit. And one of the things, I can't change all of Mexico. I understand that. But Mexico City is a small little place of 22 million people. We will have more. Mexico City will be, by the time we're done, will be one of the safest cities in the world.
Wow, well, that's a big goal, Peter. That's a big goal. And then there's the other goal, which you both are aware of, which is making people believe that, and making people, just like the goal here of overcoming the fear and the panic about coronavirus, right, is to actually.
And that's the reason that I'm so lucky that Juergen and I work together on these things, because part of good security is getting the word out. Mm-hmm. So I can work with the police, I can work with the city, I can work with a government to make the place safe. But I need Juergen's help to make it promote it. People like you, anyone in the media, to make sure that, if I were working in Maui, I would want people around the world to know how much Maui has improved. Not that it needs to improve, but it's great. We'll make it even better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's a very big subject, and perception is so key in marketing. Perception is so key around the world, and that's why tourism really, now is the time for tourism to really get to work about the perception of this situation with coronavirus, right?
In Hebrew, we say, "Mipicha le'oznei Elohim," from your mouth to God's ears.
I like that. I like that very much. Well, I'm so glad, Peter, and I thank you, Juergen, for getting, I know Peter's very busy and you're planning on this trip to Berlin and you've got the conference in Las Vegas. What's the best place for people to find out more about what you're doing?
Well, we have a website in regards to the safety security. It's easy to remember. Everything is on there, what we're doing right now, and also how to reach us. It's under safertourism.com.
Okay, safertourism.com, and people can sign up for information about what's going on in your news. You have a lot of great press releases that you put out on ETN as well, right?
Yes. Safer Tourism is not really a news publication, but obviously if you're interested in our news, please visit us at eTurboNews.com or etn.travel, and yes, you can subscribe by email, social media, alerts, anywhere you want. We're here 24/7 to report about anything and everything going on. Right now we're working on a report about a mass shooting in Germany, what is just developing. So we're trying to be everywhere, anytime.
Well, good
if
for
you're
you.
Interested also in just improving your tourism knowledge, through us, we publish a tourism newsletter called Tourism Tidbits. And if you can write to me, and I'll be more than happy, or write to Juergen, and we'll be more than happy to sign you up. Thousands of people around the world get it. You can get it in English, Spanish, or Portuguese.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you and very informative.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being on your show again.
Aloha. Aloha.
Mahalo. Bye-bye.
Bye. I want to thank our sponsors for the show. That's Ron from PwC.